Happy Tuesday, y'all. We're about to can in the Sugar Shack. I think y'all remember my grocery haul yesterday, and I mentioned I have cucumbers to do, I've got peppers to do, but I also had a great deal on those mushrooms at Aldi's, and I said, let me get these done first, and I thought, I've never done a video on mushrooms, to my knowledge, because I kind of looked back at the playlist. So we're going to pressure can mushrooms. And the reason why I thought about doing a video on these is because we have a young lady in our comments section that has not one but two electric canners. And she's never canned before. She wants to learn. So darling, you may not like mushrooms, but I'm going to walk you through how the machine actually works when you are pressure canning. So you guys bear with me that have these machines, and we're just going to do a couple of little steps. But right now, I am prepping these mushrooms. So I'm going to drop the camera. If you want to try this recipe, I highly encourage it because it's a little different, but staying within the USDA guidelines. So we're going to pressure can mushrooms. Oops. I'm going to drop you down with my fancy tripod. Now, I'm not going to bore you doing all of them, but I don't like the stems. So all I'm going to do is remove these stems, and then I'll show you the next step. And then we'll move over to the pressure canner. I've removed all the stems because they're just too woody for me. And now I did rinse these, and we're going to rinse again. But I like to take the stems out and just give them a good slice. About like that. Now you can leave the stems on. I just think that they're too woodsy for us. And I'm going to throw them in a colander because we are going to rinse them. I'll do one more. Some of these are very large. So that's all I'm going to do is get them all sliced up. I hope y'all's Tuesday's going well. Look guys, I got them all sliced. The colander is almost full. And this was 3 large packs of mushrooms. Now I've got to go and rinse them. I'm going to rinse them a couple of times. Look how pretty and clear these mushrooms are. I rinsed them 3 times, and I've got them sitting in some water. The water is just about level with the mushrooms. And we're going to actually put this on a medium to high, and I want to bring this up to a boil. Now once this comes up to a boil, I'm going to turn it down to a low simmer, and I want it to simmer for 10 minutes. That gives us time to get our pressure canner going. That also gives us time to get our broth going. But a lot of you are going to say, oh no, you're not supposed to put water on your mushrooms. If I was cooking them fresh, you're absolutely right. I would just dust them off. But since I'm pressure canning these, I need them to absorb liquid. Because what that's going to do is weight those mushrooms down in that jar. Because I don't want to end up with this much juice and this much mushrooms. They will float to the top. So by submerging them in water, bringing them up to a boil, turning it down to a simmer for 10 minutes, it's going to absorb that liquid. So when we ladle them up and fill our half-pint jars, they're going to stay filled up. So you get a full measurement of a half-pint jar. So while this is doing its thing, let's go ahead and get our, and this is optional guys, okay? But I like to put mine in my homemade Lipton onion soup mix. I do have a recipe. I'll try to link it in the description. So we're going to get a small batch of our onion soup mix going because that's going to be our brine to ladle over the mushrooms. And I will not be adding salt because my onion soup mix has a little bit of salt, not a lot. So let's get that going, and then we're moving to that pressure canner. Okay, I've added 3 heaping tablespoons of my homemade Lipton onion soup mix. Okay, this makes 5 cups of water, and I'm going to go ahead and add 2 more because normally I do 1 tablespoon per cup, so I'm going to add 2 more tablespoons. So that's 5 heaping tablespoons of Lipton onion soup mix and 5 cups of water. I've got this sitting on the high side and I want it to come up to a boil, and then we're just going to turn it down to a low so it remains hot. It doesn't have to simmer. We just want to keep the eye on the stove to where our Lipton onion soup mix brine stays hot. Okay guys, there's a line in here in this electric pressure canner, and I have brought the water up even with the line. If you were using a stovetop, it'd be 3 quarts of water. This is approximately 3 quarts of water. The dial is blinking pressure can. That is correct. So we're going to hit the next button, and we're going to set it for 45 minutes. If you were doing stovetop canner, you want a pressure can for 45 minutes. This is a low acid recipe. Next, and it's saying to insert my jars. That's to get these jars hot, because we've got a hot product, we need hot jars, and we need very warm water. Now these are clean jars. I washed them with soap and water, and all I do is take a little bit of the water and I set down in these jars, because we will dump that hot water back into our pressure pot. In and line them up. We have all 10 half pints. That's how much this Presto Precise 12 quart canner holds. So we've got 10 half pint jars. We've inserted the jars. Now we're going to hit next. And it's warming the jars. Okay, we've reached a boil. So I'm going to turn the stove eye down. Actually, I turned it off because it's boiling kind of hard. And there we go. There is our broth. The mushrooms also came up to a boil. I've turned it down to a simmer for 10 minutes. I drained the mushrooms after the 10 minutes of simmering. Make sure we get all of them out. And we're going to put them over into the onion soup mix brine. Tell you what, ooh, that's hot. There we go. It has prompted us to fill the jars. Now remember, the water that I had in here, I pulled from the canner, and I dumped the water back in the canner. You know, mushrooms shrink, but I'm going to pack, probably I'll get 4 jars. Let's see. We're going to leave an inch head space, and you will have to debubble this. Okay, I'm going about 3/4 up the jar. Looks like I'm going to end up with 5 half pints. Now you could have used way less onion brine, but I'm actually going to can my brine as well, because it makes great gravy. You know, stock, anything you want to use like a beef broth with, this would be like a beef mushroom broth. Okay, I'm going to tap all 5 half pints down, and I've scooped every mushroom out that I could find. Now we're going to ladle, leaving 1 inch of headspace. Let's see where we're at. Because once you debubble, your liquid will go down a little bit more. Move these out of the way for a minute. Just a scant more. Perfect. Let's move that jar. Now we're going to ladle up the broth. And I do have a sieve here to catch any little pieces of mushroom. Perfect. And whatever broth I have left over, I'm just going to bring it down to room temperature and set it into the ice box. Or you can put it in the freezer. And you see I'm catching the pieces of onion, which is fine, because it's the flavor that I want. Now with these onions that came through and bits of mushroom, I'm going to put that back down in this pot because I'm actually going to use this as a gravy for tomorrow's supper. I ended up with 2 cups of beautiful broth. Now I'm going to clean my paper towel very well, and you really want to clean the top of your jars. I'm putting my flats on. Now these were put in hot water, but I had to drain my hot water. It's hot because I couldn't find my magnet. And my magnet always sits in the same spot, but it has disappeared. Now we're going to put the rings on just finger tight, guys. Whew. Works so much better when you're left-handed and you pull it over to your right. Okay, it's telling us to fill our jars. We have done that. So we're going to hit next, and it's heating. Now we got to load our jars. Our jars are loaded in. Now let's put the top on. Our lid is on. It's showing heating. It came up to temp, and now it's telling us it's got to vent for 10 minutes. And this is what it's talking about. This will come to a steady stream, just like a stovetop canner, and it's going to vent for 10 minutes. Then it will prompt us for the regulator. Okay, it's done with the venting for 10 minutes. Now it's saying put the regulator on. The regulator is on. We're going to hit next. And it's going to count down 45 minutes. Guys, I want to show you something. I don't think I've showed you in previous videos, or I'm not sure we've done pressure canning with this electric pressure canner. But if you look here, that's the pop-up valve. That tells us that it is built pressure and it's ready to process. The canner said done. So now it's time to pull the regulator off. And see what I mean by they don't float to the top? Because they were able to absorb the water. But these things were popping and a-singing, guys, when I pulled them out. We've put them to rest until tomorrow. Thank you for spending the day with me. It didn't take too long to get these mushrooms going. It was the 45-minute processing. But if you like mushrooms, give this recipe a try. You end up with some beautiful broth as well. So we've got, what, 5 jars of mushrooms, 5 jars of broth going to our pantry. That's a win in my book. I look forward to seeing y'all tomorrow, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Central, for our live canning. We'll be canning pineapple. So, like I said, if you don't want to can pineapple with me, just join in because we have the best fellowship. But as always, stay safe, stay well, and God bless. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.